August 31, 1976. England, London, Black House. Sergei meticulously surveyed the room, considering what else should go into the magically expansive chest that already housed an extensive school wardrobe, a dozen robes, stacks of shirts, trousers, boots, socks, and underwear. The bourgeoisie was certainly knowledgeable about clothing. He had never encountered, let alone worn, such exquisite attire in his life. There was no constriction, the fabrics flowed through his hands, soft, comfortable, devoid of the chafing and discomfort that synthetics had inundated the Russian market with over the past 2 decades. Not that Sergei was an expert in clothing, but the difference was striking. His job occasionally allowed for imported jeans and shoes, yet such unparalleled quality was a novelty even among foreign goods. Sirius' wardrobe consisted of a pair of black jeans and a jacket. He and his friends had ventured into Muggle London, mingling even with local bikers. Sergei was aware that when Sirius had fled home, first to the Potters, and later, having come of age and inherited a 2-story abode, a cottage, from his still-living uncle, he had purchased a motorbike and charmed it to fly. The concept intrigued Sergei. He had always held a fascination for technology, and this amalgamation of mechanics and magic was undeniably impressive. Flying cars and motorbikes had long been the stuff of human dreams. Unfortunately, while some schematics of the machine's construction remained, there were several gaps in Sirius' memory concerning the structure of the wizarding world. It wasn't a complete void, but much of it was akin to a functional blueprint, how to operate, but not necessarily why it functioned that way. One could indeed use a television or refrigerator without understanding Newton's laws, optics, or electrical circuit assembly. However, one couldn't escape the knowledge that these devices operated via electricity, a fact grasped even by the average third grader from the school curriculum and personal experience. Unplugging the cord from the socket led to an absence of function. Blocking the remote control signal to the television resulted in its inaction. Even leaving a fridge switched off for a time was common knowledge. The refrigerants needed time to settle before cooling. Yet sometimes, Sergei's grasp of the 3-dimensional environment was incomplete. It's possible that certain minutiae were overlooked or considered trivial during the memory transfer, which might explain the inability to ask direct questions without risk. However, Sergei's inquisitive mind, a product of Russia's survival culture, found middle ground. Before commencing his final 2 years of study at the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, he needed to acquire knowledge he had never possessed, magic. Fortunately, time was on his side. The Guardian hadn't propelled him into the studies immediately, only arriving in October. Subsequently, Sirius, now Sergei, achieved a tremendously exemplary review, or TER for short, in the following term. Sergei had enlisted his brother's aid, requesting that he review the material with him, revisiting the first-year syllabus. The process unfolded as a rapid-fire learning session, taking just 2 weeks to grasp the fundamentals. Sergei recalled the charms and spells that lay dormant in his subconscious, yet unless brought to the forefront of his mind, this knowledge remained inert. By mid-August, the siblings had revisited all they had learned at Hogwarts up to the 3rd year, the point Regulus had completed. Given his younger brother's aptitude, he had already perused the 4th-year texts and even delved into the spells taught in the 5th year. However, this foundation wasn't sufficient. During a dinner conversation with the Black family, Sirius' mother came to Sergei's aid when he broached the subject of his studies. Building rapport with Walburga Black, whom Sergei had mentally referred to as Mum over the past 10 weeks since his arrival, had proven unexpectedly smooth. He recollected how Sirius had perceived his mother and what had perturbed him, then regarded Walburga, finding no trace of the formidable, alien figure from someone else's existence. Why this discrepancy existed, he couldn't ascertain. Perhaps due to Sirius' independent spirit and the lack of parental affection or guidance throughout his life, or perhaps. On that first day, when Sergei saw Walburga, an upheaval surged within him. Tears welled, necessitating immense willpower to address her calmly. It was as if he had glimpsed a mirror reflecting a previous life. This woman uncannily resembled him from the past. The almond-shaped eyes, nose, lip contours, and brows, even the high forehead. Granted, the feminine oval of her face softened the features, while her long black hair framed the pale skin Sergei had never possessed due to his outdoor labor. Still, the similarity was striking. More so since Sergei retained a perception of himself as older than a 16-year-old boy, while Wahlberger appeared to be around 30 or 35 at most. This aristocrat from an ancient magical lineage could very well be his mother, Sergei Zvezdnev's mother from distant Russia. Her fragrance evoked memories of Brazilian soap operas aired in the early 90s, though he couldn't shake the sensation. Nevertheless, posing a direct question would be short-sighted, compelling him to grapple with doubt and conjecture. Ultimately, he opted not to burden himself with such speculation. Existing troubles and dilemmas were sufficient. Gradually, he accustomed himself to respond more composedly to his mother. Nonetheless, each time he gazed upon her, a shiver traversed his spine, his heartbeat accelerated in a rush of puppyish delight. While Sirius bore an uncanny resemblance to Orion Black, Regulus sported features reminiscent of both parents, with his mother's eyes. The 2 weeks leading up to the school year's start were dedicated to the 5th year, focused on preparing for the ordinary wizarding levels, owls, in which Sirius grades were fairly respectable, incidentally. Sergei also invested time in the Manor's laboratory, acclimating to frog legs, flobberworms, and bug eyes, all intimidating, but Sergei harbored no aversion to hands-on tasks. Yet, that wasn't the primary issue. While magic could be harnessed with relative ease to manifest miracles, culinary chemistry demanded more than sheer willpower. It required basic cutting skills, an internal clock, olfactory orientation, though Sergei's sense of smell proved reliable. It was only through this sense that he gleaned a semblance of understanding regarding the potions. Another hurdle arose from the unfamiliar system of weights and measures. His mind grappled with concepts like liquid drachmas and scrupuluses. The memories of his past and new life clashed, grappling with measurement methods. Sergei found himself at an impasse. So, though theoretically sound, Sergei found practical potion-making beyond his grasp. In contrast, Sirius had registered for an advanced course, including the forthcoming Java exams, an unfortunate development. Sergei even had to fabricate a story for his parents, blaming the slight loss of coordination on a collision with an unfortunate dresser. Nevertheless, he pledged to compensate and intensified his efforts. And now, the impending return to school awaited him. Sirius examined with curiosity the golden ticket his brother had presented that morning. The ticket bore elaborate script, detailing the departure of the Hogwarts Express from King's Cross Station at 9:75 in the morning on September 1st. Sergei deduced that it served as a magical invitation. Only Hogwarts students and their guardians could infiltrate a venture as strategically vital as a train carrying children. The handwriting was slightly unusual to Sergei as well. In his distant school days, he had experienced writing with a pen, not a quill, but a metallic tip. Later, at technical school, he grappled with race-fedder for drawing and acquainting himself with ink and paint. Fortuitously, his capacity for writing exceeded his potion-making prowess. It was a vestige of his past life. When he focused, he could write in English, with his penmanship resembling Sirius. He had discovered an incomplete letter in his desk, providing a model to follow. Old essays, notes, and letters from various individuals in the wonder chest further enriched his expertise. Anticipation and anxiety enveloped him concerning the impending reunion with his friends. They were intimately acquainted with the genuine Sirius. It did strike him as odd that none had visited during the holidays, but perhaps the house's magical wards were culpable. Black House's history dated back to the inception of the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy, a decree concealing all magical aspects from non-magical individuals. Constructed by black ancestors, the house was cunningly nestled between two Muggle residences in Old London, making unauthorized access nearly insurmountable. Sergei sifted through memories, unveiling the mansion as not just an opulent abode but a bona fide magical fortress, impervious to external threats. A sanctuary from both Muggles and wizarding adversaries. In the past, Sirius had often opted to visit friends rather than invite them over. Confronting these friends wasn't a prospect Sergei relished. He was unprepared and would unravel within minutes, unable to employ magic to cleanse his attire or dry his rain-soaked robes. Mags habitually wielded magic, leaving minimal room for manual tasks. This practice was viewed as undignified. Even if the accounts of soul-swapping and time-traveling were incredulous, stepping into the spotlight unprepared was unthinkable. A role needed mastering. Sergei turned his attention back to the wall that had troubled him since his initial moments in Sirius' body. Not on a physiological level, with a mind full of concerns, he wasn't inclined to do anything foolish, but aesthetically. The semi-naked Playboy girls clashed with the room's understated style, marring its ambience. Moreover, Sirius had placed them there to defy his mother and scorn tradition. Sergei aimed to avoid any potential conflicts. The situation felt awkward, particularly for someone who had undertaken repairs, understood the challenge of acquiring just 3 rolls of beautiful wallpaper, and managed to cover only visible areas due to limited length. Sergei could visualize Lady Wahlberger stepping into his room, inspecting the chaos, and ultimately feeling disappointed. Thus, after lessons with his brother, father, and mother, Sergei attempted to employ magic to remove the pictures from the wall, yet his efforts yielded no results. Today, he had an epiphany. What chance did magic stand against Russian resourcefulness? "Hey, Reg, how about we go for a walk on the final day of the holidays?" Sergei inquired of his younger brother during lunch.
Just the 2 of us?
Regulus queried with interest. Yes, precisely. Given our intense studying, it might be refreshing to venture out before school recommences.
Agreed.
Regulus' face illuminated with a joyful smile, evoking a pang in Sergei's heart at the realization that Sirius had likely overlooked how much his younger brother needed him. He had even allowed discord to escalate between them. And then Regulus had vanished. Could he permit the same fate to befall his family? Certainly not. The walk proved to be both enjoyable and captivating. London held a charm of its own. Sirius possessed pounds, a considerable sum for a teenager, which Sergei acknowledged as a significant advantage. He had adept procured the perfect amount of silk wallpaper in a serene, pale blue hue from a vast Muggle shopping centre, cutting the rolls into cigarette-sized portions and hauling them back to the manor. In front of his astonished brother, Sirius had then embarked on a room redecoration mission. He rearranged all the furniture into the center, swiftly and effortlessly applying the new wallpaper with magic. The once present portraits of the maidens were now concealed, and the furniture was returned to its rightful places.
Wow!
Regulus exclaimed, tossing his head in approval.
Impressive! Why the decision for such a makeover?
It's because the 6th year is like stepping onto a new path. It's a defining moment that shapes our direction. Do you grasp what I mean?
Yes.
Regulus responded, his expression earnest.
Listen, Sirius, will there be a place for me on this new path of yours?
What? Of course, Reg. You're my brother. Sergei beamed warmly.
I hope you'll remember that when we're at Hogwarts, wearing different house ties.
Regulus smiled with a tinge of sadness.
Good night, Sirius. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. And by the way, these holidays have been wonderful. Thank you.
Observing the door closing behind Regulus, Sergei felt a twinge of confusion. He clenched his fists, finally realizing that not only the fate of his past and future family hung in the balance, but the destiny of this family as well. The 1st of September 1976. England, London, King's Cross Station. Around 11:30 on the 1st of September, following a leisurely breakfast and bidding farewell to his family, Sergei was escorted onto the magical platform by a diligent house elf, his carefully packed wonder chest in tow. Moments later, Regulus joined him, accompanied by his belongings. The suddenness of the transition and the sudden influx of strangers who seemed to materialize from thin air, an array of chaperones and students spanning various ages, all clad in robes as dark as Sergei's and his brother's, cages holding birds and cats, set against an unusually vivid crimson backdrop that resembled an elongated fire extinguisher, caused Sergei's eyes to well up with moisture. For a fleeting instant, he felt a touch of shyness. Would he truly fit into this world of magic, into the school, among his fellow students? Would he be able to forge connections with this group of adolescents?
Barty and Severus are right over there,
Regulus mentioned, standing beside Sergei and visibly brimming with anticipation.
Will you come with me to meet my friends?
Of course, Sergei assented, his attention partly preoccupied. Nevertheless, he recognized the necessity of starting somewhere and initiating conversations. As they approached the two young boys, a flicker of familiarity played upon their features. Clad in black school robes and sporting green ties, they both wore Slytherin crest badges. One appeared younger, his blonde hair and brown eyes exuding a slightly youthful roundness in his cheeks, a clear fellow student of Regulus. The other seemed older, his sturdy build accompanied by dark brown hair. It was his penetrating black eyes that seemed to burrow into Sergei's chest, almost as if they sought to pierce his very soul. Engaging in a hasty mental scan of the other's memory to ensure he wouldn't stumble into any mishaps, Sergei nearly faltered. Severus was the name attached to Sirius' school adversary. The name initially triggered no recognition, as he'd been accustomed to referring to him as Nunius or Snape in his younger years. As Sergei closed the remaining distance towards Regulus' companions, a whirlwind of memories stormed through his mind. In this scene, Sirius, just 11 years old, stands on a railway station for the very first time. He's taken aback by the sight of a train. His mother is beside him, and they're approached by another woman and her young son, James Potter. James sports round glasses and unruly hair, evidently a failed attempt at combing it. Nevertheless, his wide smile lights up his face as he pledges to show you around. Engaging in conversation, they quickly bond, and Sirius feels elated about finding his first friend. Subsequently, Sirius and James venture into one of the compartments on the train, only to find another boy and a red-haired girl already seated inside.
You should join Slytherin with me, Lily.
But Severus, I'm not sure.
The girl hesitates before her words are cut short as they step in.
Don't pay any attention to that Nunius, only feeble slugs attend the Snail House, Slytherin, and it's reserved for sinister wizards who enjoy taunting others. The true gems join the courageous lions, Gryffindor. Slytherin is left for the undesirables.
What do you know?
Sirius retorts, not letting it slide. He seizes his wand and employs a rather disagreeable jinx known as eat slugs. Sirius has never tried this on anyone before, merely encountering it once in a library read, yet it works effortlessly. The boy immediately regurgitates real slugs, each as large as a grown man's finger. The girl is aghast and launches into a reprimand, assisting her afflicted friend, while Sirius and James hastily retreat from the compartment.
Brilliant, you got him.
James exclaims in admiration, giving Sirius an encouraging pat on the back.
You seemed so haughty and stuck up at first.
I'm not that either. Sirius counters, concealing the fact that his family has been a part of Slytherin for generations. Sirius finds himself nearly retching at witnessing what young Black has done to showcase himself to his newfound friend. He experiences a surprising solidarity with Severus, who wouldn't easily forgive such an action. In time, Severus seeks retribution for the humiliation he suffered in front of his friend. This sparks the beginning of their ongoing rivalry, albeit a peculiar one. Typically, it's the entire Marauder gang against Severus alone. Sergei swiftly browses his memories, growing increasingly perturbed. This wasn't quite typical boyish behavior. True, they had disagreements at boarding school too, but they typically involved outsiders, local boys, and not all of them. They would only retaliate against those who teased, bullied, or targeted girls. In any scuffles, it was usually one-on-one confrontations. Surprisingly, neither Sirius nor James received severe reprimands for attacking students from different houses. Although their marks were deducted, the faculty seemed more wary of confronting them and preferred to avoid becoming their targets, so they allowed Severus to bear the blame. He wasn't the lone Slytherin to be harassed by the Marauders, but he was the only one who defied their ideals right from his first year, consistently striking back and refusing to yield. Furthermore, as Sergei deduced, unlike the affluent Potter and Black families, Snape appeared to be more of a proletariat. He was often seen in worn-out robes, clutching battered textbooks. He was viewed as a half-blood, his mother married a muggle, a worker of sorts. Sergei had already gleaned this information from Sirius post-school learnings. It seemed that their confrontations with Severus Snape, who was adept at crafting clever charms and curses, along with his penchant for brewing sinister potions and setting traps, had driven Sirius and James to excel academically. Fueled by the belief that they were smarter and superior to their peers, they devised a map that helped them locate Severus in shadowy corners or when he was alone. An unsettling incident unfolded the previous year during their 5th year at Hogwarts. Sergei recalled that one of Sirius' friends, a member of the Marauders, was a werewolf, Remus Lupin. It was Remus' condition that prompted the quartet to explore animagus transformation as a means to evade the werewolf's affliction. Consequently, James became a stag, Peter Pettigrew a rat, and Sirius a dog. Utilizing the map, they unveiled concealed passageways within Hogwarts, including the one leading to the infamous Shrieking Shack where Remus would transform during full moons. Sirius devised a clever prank, staging a moonlit rendezvous near a howling willow using a dropped note. However, this particular incident spiraled out of control. They lured a transformed Remus onto the school grounds as a jest, where he encountered Snape. Recollections of the event were hazy, for Sirius was in his dog form then, but the sight of a werewolf lunging at a 15-year-old boy outside school evoked shivers. Despite Snape's quick response, employing his wand to cast a few spells, it was Potter who shielded Remus, and Sirius who wrenched Snape away. Yet, the latter did not escape unscathed. Following this incident, Snape was absent from school for almost a month. Healer reports to Sirius, who had briefly regained his senses, indicated that Snape bore deep claw marks on his back and legs inflicted by the werewolf. It was implied that the entire episode should be forgiven since James Potter had ostensibly saved Snape's life. Nonetheless, the Marauders' antics only simmered down temporarily. After their OWL exams, during a lakeside relaxation, James showcased a peculiar spell to impress Lily, Snape's girlfriend from the train. With this spell, he suspended their perpetual adversary mid-air. As various robe styles were sported at Hogwarts, including the classic robes beneath which even boys often omitted trousers, Snape was left in just a pair of weathered underpants. This spectacle unfolded before a throng of students who had gathered for yet another spectacle. Sergei found such pranks repugnant, denouncing them as public humiliation, especially when girls were present. In Lily's earnest intervention, she implored,
"Let him go, James. Let him go now."
The sole voice of reason amid the chaos. But what was it with these Brits? Snape abruptly retorted,
I don't need any help from a filthy mudblood.
Sergei sensed Snape's agony at being seen in such a state, dangling upside down, his robes askew, nearly nude, his back marked with vivid, angry scars. "Perhaps we should cleanse your vulgar mouth," Sirius interjected. He invoked the Excuro spell, more potent than the Eat Snails jinx. Excuro was typically used for household cleaning. It was rather disturbing, upon reflection. The last memory I retain is her discussion with Sirius, just before the actual soul transfer to the past occurred.
By the way, I hold an intense and profound disdain for Snape. Please remember that. He mistreated Harry and others. A deceitful, two-faced individual. Dumbledore might have trusted him, but he served an enigmatic entity, and he was a Death Eater. A double agent. He even sought to separate Lily from James. To sum it up, he's a despicable character. Keep an eye on him. But above all, safeguard my godson.
Hello, Barty. Hello, Severus.
Hello, Regulus. Hello, Sirius.
Barty responded, while Snape simply nodded. "Hello, Severus and..." Barty, Sirius' words were tinged with surprise, likely prompted by Sirius's rather exuberant behavior, which resembled an avalanche. Sergei had been primarily focused on his training at the manor, diligently working on spells and potions. He decided to address human relationships at a later time. The nuances of memories and transferred memories seemed to unfold associatively. Sirius' childhood memories effortlessly emerged at Black House, especially those connected to his brother, Regulus, and his parents. Through books, vivid learning moments resurfaced when Sirius had mastered various spells. This pattern held true for other aspects of his life. Sergei understood that recollecting everything simultaneously risked overwhelming his own identity. It took him a month and a half to grasp these skills, and his life was so hectic that he found it challenging to determine whom to approach or apologize to. Though Sirius was being unkind, he wasn't cognizant of it. He genuinely believed it was the right course of action, leaving Sergei bewildered. The notion of starting anew seemed to be more complex than initially thought. Sergei contemplated how the events might have unfolded differently if Sirius hadn't engaged in any actions during that first September in his first year. What if he had expressed a desire to join Slytherin, or if they had merely exited the compartment? Yet, the Guardian had selected this specific year and time for Sirius, implying that Sergei had to navigate the situation solo, to steer away from the precipice that led Sirius to the Vale of Death and the eventual downfall of the Black family. Delving into this matter demanded thoughtful consideration and restraint, rather than impulsively responding and inadvertently exacerbating the situation. Although, how much more damage could he inadvertently cause? An extended silence lingered. Regulus' friends exchanged puzzled glances. Severus Snape's eyes narrowed in disdain, yet he withheld his words. From Sirius's memories, Snape rarely passed up an opportunity for a verbal jab unless he was preoccupied with magical mischief. Could it be that he didn't wish to engage in an argument to avoid upsetting Regulus?
Sirius, you're probably planning to meet up with your friends, right?
Regulus inquired, sensing the unease in the situation. I don't particularly feel like it, Sergei admitted, suppressing his initial instinct to take action. The memories of Snape were too jarring. Nonetheless, considering that the boys might extend a polite invitation, only for the other marauders to follow, however, I think it's best if I depart, Sergei continued, understanding that evading trouble wasn't a constructive approach. Especially as he was already sharing a room and studying with James Potter, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew.
Well, I guess I'll see you around then, Sirius.
Regulus expressed lightly, a hint of hope in his voice. Certainly, we'll run into each other. We're attending the same school, Sergei muttered, picking up his wonder trunk and leaving the presence of the Slytherin trio. As he moved away, he overheard a gentle question from Snape behind him, who had remained silent until then.
What's going on with your brother, Reg?
Unfortunately, the crowd's murmur obscured Regulus' response.
Hey, Siri. There you are.
A bespectacled, shaggy-haired boy waved at him.